Hi, my name is Carolyn Honey, and I'm the second negative speaker. And Connecticut carried out New England's first execution in 45 years when serial killer Michael Ross was put to death by injection on May 13, 2005. According to CBS News, Ross was sent to death row for the murders of 4 young women and girls in Connecticut in the 1980s, confessed to 4 more killings, and allegedly raped majority of the women he murdered. Do you think the death penalty was justified enough to be used against Ross? In my opinion, I think the death penalty is justifiable here because of 3 reasons I'm going to present. My main claim is that the death penalty is needed in today's society to ensure safety of individuals so that nobody becomes a victim of anyone. I'm going to address why the the death penalty deters crime, or why the death penalty deters crime, the cost of capital punishment versus life without parole, and innocence in the death penalty, and the disadvantages to the affirmative solution like race and mentally ill. According to the DPIC, the Death Penalty Information Center, of the 1,999 executions carried out in the whole of the USA from 1977 to the end of 2007, Texas accounts for 406, or 37%, of the death penalty cases. Interestingly, the murder rate in the U.S. dropped from 24,562 in 1993 to 18,209 in 1997. The lowest, which has been the lowest for years, which is a 26% reduction during a period of increased use of death penalty. According to the United States Department of Justice, Bureau of Justice Statistics, number of executions plummeted and the homicide rate, which had been holding steady throughout the 50s, started up in 1965, just 2 years after executions began their plummet. The biggest increase in 1 year came in 1967, the same year that the last person was executed. These facts are given to us to prove that the death penalty does deter crimes with no questions asked. The affirmative speaker would argue that execution rates would be outrageously expensive. However, the maintenance of keeping a person in prison tends to exceed the cost of executions in the long run because eventually as they get older they start to have a plethora of medical expenses, and the money comes from taxpayers like us. The Corrections Secretary Jeffrey Beard stated, medical care for elderly inmates cost $20 million last year. In 8 years, as the elderly population rises, those health care costs will rise to at least $52 million. This is a huge amount. So imagine, especially with an increase of elderly inmates, an average of 1,982 inmates are expected to be in state prisons older than 55. It is very rare that an innocent person may be killed because with today's technology, DNA testing is very effective and precise. According to the American Civil Liberties Union, in an article published in 2002, the increasing use of DNA testing to help confirm the innocence or guilt in capital cases is one among many reforms that will help ensure that innocent people are not sentenced to death. And with collecting good biological evidence, they can detect the criminal with great accuracy. Disadvantages of affirmative solutions are avoidance and discrimination. According to Roger Clegg, the General Counsel at the Center of Equal Opportunity, the fact that blacks and Hispanics are charged with capital crimes out of proportion to their numbers in the general population may simply mean that blacks and Hispanics commit capital crimes out of proportion to their numbers. Other disadvantages to the affirmative solutions are that people who have a mental illness are almost always pardoned from the death penalty because they are not sane. According to Antonin Scalia, the Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court, or who was the Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court in 2002, ruled in Atkins versus Virginia that the U.S. Supreme Court throws one last factor into its grab bag of reasons why execution of the retarded is excessive in all cases. Mentally retarded offenders face a special risk of wrongful execution, but it is hard to see how it has anything to do with an Eighth Amendment claim that execution of the mentally retarded is cruel and unusual.
Yes.
Stephanie?